Hello everybody, this is going to be an unscripted rant about one of the biggest anime clusterfucks I have ever had the pleasure, yes pleasure, to watch. Kakumeiki Valrave, also known as Valvrave the Liberator, by Studio Sunrise. And what a clusterfuck it is. So, yes, it's going to be unscripted, probably going to be a bit rambly, but that's just the nature of the beast. I got a note with a few things written down on it, and that's basically the only thing I've got to go on. So let's start with some background details to this anime show. So, Kakumeiki Valrave was released in 2013 by Studio Sunrise, and if you are into anime at all, you probably recognize a lot of their previous shows, like Gundam, lots of Gundam, Code Geass, and as recently things like Cross-Angie. So they're basically experienced mecha anime makers in every sense of the word. And this show is sort of a big mix of Code Geass and mecha. Like they just took the two things they're famous for, Gundam, Code Geass, mashed it together into a big mess. So let me just give you a brief rundown of the premise of the show, in case you're not familiar, in case you haven't watched it in a while. So it is the far future. Humanity has settled into space and is now divided into three major nations: the Dorsians, the Aris, and Geo. So, Aris and Dorsia are bitter enemies. If they don't fight, they are glaring menacingly at each other. That's basically their relationship. Geo, on the other hand, is built into a Dyson sphere around the star. And for those who don't know, a Dyson sphere is basically this grid covering an entire star meant to absorb its solar energies for maximum efficiency. And Geo is made up of these tiny hexes set into this grid. So it's kind of a bit off, a bit further away from the other two, and as a result it's been neutral in the big Aris-Dorsia conflict. And the anime starts off with the introduction of the protagonist, Tokishima Haruto, who is your typical bland male anime protagonist fare. He is honest, he cares for his friends, he's fairly chivalrous, and he is as bland as grey paint, which is usually how these things go. So anyway, show starts up with Dorsia attacking Geo just out of nowhere. And wouldn't you know it, Haruto accidentally stumbles upon a mech and manages to fly it like a pro to beat back the Dorsian forces. And also standard mecha fare. Young person meets mecha. They turn out to be really damn good at it. And so the show begins. Now, the big twist, if you want to call it that, of the show is that piloting the mecha is a bit special. You see, when you get in the seat, the mecha asks you, do you want to relinquish your humanity? Very edgy, I know. The show likes to be full on edgelord sometimes. I'll get back to that. Anyway, the mecha asks you, do you want to relinquish your humanity? And Haruto, because he's a fucking idiot, of course says yes. And this is where the twist happens. Valvrave pilots are, by the mecha, turned into immortal identity vampires, in a sense. Now, why is that, you ask? I don't know, the show answers. It just kind of happens. I'm going to get back into exactly how the show handles the identity vampires. I'm going to call it Valpires. Sounds stupid enough. I'm just going to go into what it entails. So basically you get into the seat, accept to give away your humanity, and the mecha injects you with something unknown. And as a result, you're now a vampire who has to feed not on blood, but on people's identities. And you do this by biting them, because vampire. And when you bite people, you take control of their bodies, and your normal body is... No, wait. Yes. Not only do you take control of the bodies, you switch bodies. Because reasons. That's the common theme with Valvrave. Because reasons. And if you haven't switched bodies in a while, you get overcome by vampiric lust for identity, and will just randomly attack people. So that's basically Valvampirism in a nutshell. So anyway, to sum up the rest of the show, Walter beats back Dorsha. Dorsha wants to get at Geo to get the Valvraves, because there are more of them. 6, no wait, 5 in fact. So anyway, the rest of the show is about the conflict between these two, although quite early on the hex of the Dyson sphere that contains Haruto's school proclaims liberty from the rest of Yeor, dislodges from the Dyson sphere, and sort of just drifts off into space. And that's where the rest of the show takes place, more or less. At a school with a lot of kids, which is quite reminiscent of Guilty Crown, if you've watched that. It's an entire arc where a school gets sealed off from the rest of the world, basically. And the rest of the show is more people getting Valvraves, they fight back against the Dorshans, a lot of back and forth. I mean, of course, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the basic gist. So, let's get to my first issue. Oh, no, let's not get to my first issue. Let's get to the overall issue with Valvrave. And that is, it feels so fractured. Like it doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. On one hand, it seems to take a lot of things very seriously, becoming very grimdark sometimes, very harsh. But on the other hand, it does a lot of things that are either really silly or seem like parodies of actual anime conventions, but they don't take them far enough for it to be proper parodies. So you end up with a huge mess of things that seem serious on the surface, are incredibly dumb when you think about them for a while, and a lot of things that just sort of happen for no reason because the plot demands it. Dumb plot twists. As I said earlier, it's a clusterfuck. It's just a big clusterfuck. Some people say that they think the anime was intentionally made as a parody. I don't think so. Because, as I also said earlier, it isn't silly enough. It doesn't take the mockery far enough to be a proper parody. And rather it seems like someone who has never watched anime before, an angsty teen who's never watched anime before, but who's sort of seen these cool flashy things and decides, oh, I'm gonna put everything together into one show, without any realization of how stupid the ideas are. So, that said, let's start off elaborating on the Valvampirism, which is just as misal as everything else. Now, you might expect the Valvampirism to be, you know, an important part of the story, to see how Hotter fights this inner identity-craving beast of his, but no. I mean, his Valvampirism is only really an issue in the first, the second episode. That's when he sort of goes ballistic and starts attacking people, and then it sort of goes away and just no one mentions it. It doesn't really happen again until the plot just demands it, and then he goes ballistic again. It's just, there's no consistency to how it works, no reason for it to exist. It just happens and makes an impact when the plot demands it. We are told in the second episode that, oh, if he doesn't switch personalities enough, he'll go ballistic. And yet he doesn't. He doesn't go ballistic. He just goes on as normal, except now he's immortal because vampirism makes you immortal. So he's now an immortal guy who has an issue that only shows up when the plot demands it. Not only that, but the vampirism also seems to sort of change nature depending on, again, what the plot demands. Because later on in the show, the other Valvrave pilots become vampires as well. And they don't get these outbursts of desire. They just don't. The plot just doesn't give a fuck. They're just like, nope. It's gonna be too damn annoying to make all of these people go nuts. So they're just not gonna. For reasons. You let me say a lot in this rant. For reasons. Welcome to Valvrave. For reasons. Anyway. So again, to sum it up, Walter becomes an immortal emotion vampire. Personality vampire. But the plot doesn't do much with it. However, there is a twist, doing quotation marks there, twist, later on that, like most things in the show, just comes out of nowhere for the sake of drama. And what happens is he gets overcome by this lust again, and attacks his one of his classmates and fellow Valvrave pilots, Rukino Saki. Now you might think, oh, he's going to bite her, he's going to switch into her body. Is he not? No, for some reason, in this particular instance, he is not out for her personality. He is going to straight out rape her. Yes, and that's why some people refer to Valvrave as Valrape. But I don't think that's fair. There's only that one rape scene in the entire show, so no. No Valrape, just stupid rape. Anyway, yeah, he's overcome by this, and for some reason decides to rape her. Not take a personality, now he just wants some to sate his bestial lust for some reason. Now, this could have been an interesting twist, possibly, if they'd actually done something with it. But they don't. They just don't. It happens, he comes back to normal, he feels awful for it, she feels awful about it, because she was the victim of it. And then there's just not much that happens. Like his only response is, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to take responsibility, I'll marry you. As if that's going to do anything, but hey, he's a pure, chivalrous man, and of course he's going to marry, because, oh, I have sex with a girl, I can't just have sex with a girl and not marry her. No, dude. Just no. So it happens, it's not further woven into the story, just, it happens in its own episode. It's incredibly awkward between Saki and Haruto in that episode, and then it just sort of set aside like, oh, well, it happened. Meh. The only time the vampirism is actually used for anything good is toward the end of the show, when they actually use it to infiltrate the Adortian base by biting people and then pretending to be them. That's the only time I say, that they actually make something out of this power. So it sort of feels like they were trying to make something akin to Lucius Gaius power, but it's not as good because it's not a major thing in the plot. It's incredibly inconsistent, and it comes and goes as the plot demands. The plot just never focuses on it. It's thrown in for rule of cool, and then just discarded. Except when the writer decides, like, hey, I can do something interesting with this. Anyway, I think I've said the same thing in several different ways now. I'm just gonna move on to the next film. again, an important thing to remember about Valvrave is that story elements and plot twists are usually one episode long. Once the episode's done, they're usually never brought up or in any way consequential again. One of these things that was brought up and never mentioned again, and that comes out of nowhere, is the character Mari. Now, for the entire length of the show, he's sort of been a completely irrelevant side character. Your usual deadpan lolly. Very unflappable, sarcastic. If you watched anime, you know the type. And nothing ever indicated she was special in any way. She was there to fill out the roster. So, then there's an episode where they... it's the same sort of arc where they try to infiltrate the Dortian base. And things happen, and Mari ends up getting shot. And I'm gonna tell you who she gets shot by, because that guy is just the... Whew! I can rant about him for a while. So yeah, she gets shot in the forehead, and seemingly dies. But then, plot twist! She gets up. Her wound heals. Oh, she was a Valvrave pilot all along. Wow. So yeah, it turns out that for some reason, out of nowhere, she's a Valvrave pilot, but she doesn't remember being a Valvrave pilot. And then there's like a short arc where it's revealed that she was actually one of the test pilots for the prototype Valvraves, as they were created. And for some reason, she didn't sync perfectly with it, so it ate her memories of it. And again, we've never had any indication that Valvraves feed on your memories until now, so just out of nowhere. Valvraves eat memories. Maria was a Valvrave pilot. Gasp! And then, as if to just totally play on our heartstrings, she ends up getting a Valvrave that episode. She fights back the enemy forces, and the Valvrave eats her all of her memories, including her basic cerebral functions, and she dies. So the show really went from 0 to 10 with her in no time at all. And as usual, it doesn't last for long as an episode. And then it's just sort of, oh, so sad, she's gone, let's bury her. And she's basically yet never mentioned again. And in addition, this amnesia plot point, they show up that she's had her memories eaten. Only mentioned in that one episode. There's no, as I said, no indication that you had amnesia before. Not a single one. She doesn't mention that. Oh, I don't know this thing that I really should know. Oh, that's odd. No, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. She has no amnesia. She does, but nothing points to having amnesia. Again, the show just pulls something out of its ass, makes a plot twist, and then just sort of throws it aside. As if it's this cheap thing they can wave in front of your face to get your attention. Anyway, let's get to the one character I really should have mentioned from the beginning. Elf. But so many jokes. What to say about Elf? How to sum him up? He is an edgy Marty Stew edgelord. That's basically one thing you can say. So, Elf starts off as a soldier in the Dortian army. And the Dortian army are basically space Sparta. Everyone in Dortia is trained in the art of fighting, military operations, weaponry, all of that. Child soldiers. Well, soldiers from childhood. Really good at what they do. And Elf is sort of the best of them all, the prodigy. A man who can beat an entire army by himself, yada yada yada. But yeah, he starts off as a soldier in the Dortian army, as they invade Hartoshermon Yeo. And he ends up running into Haruto, who bites him with his Valvrave powers, and they exchange identities. And so things go south for the Dorsians, and they think Elelf has betrayed them. So anyway, they retreat because they are getting beat back. Elelf is left in the school, and just sort of sticks to the shades for a while, manipulates things from behind the scenes. And initially, everything he does seems to indicate that he's working for Dorsia in the background, doing things to sabotage and monitor the school and Geo. So you think that okay, he's going to be like this enemy in the shadows that they'll have to defeat. Might be, you know, a hidden threat that they won't discover until much later. But no, he ends up, he just ends up revealing himself eventually, and when he does, he just says like, oh, no, I'm not doing this with Dorsia. You see, I am in fact fighting against Dorsia, and I need your help. I want to topple Dorsia. And again, it comes completely out of nowhere. Up until this point, he's been portrayed as a complete brainwashed Dorsia fanatic. It's like, I'm going to do anything for Dorsia. For Dorsia. Blitzenschwerders something. Blitzendegen, that's right. Dorsia has the catchphrase, which is Blitzendegen. Because German. Anyway, he's just... everything about his schemes, he's loyal to Dorsia. And then he just sort of flips, and now he's not. So he becomes sort of the strange ally of Haruto and his buddies. And they don't get along, because Haruto is naive, he's kind, he's compassionate, and Elef is very cold, calculating. He doesn't care what he has to do. He'll just, as long as the results are what he wants, he'll just do anything. And you might think, okay, that could be a fun dynamic, you know, the kind emotional one versus the dead cold one. Could make for a nice clash. No, it's not. But if you've detected the theme already, you probably knew that. So what ends up happening is Elelf basically becomes Haruto's advisor, because he is so incredibly modest, so overpowered that he can basically predict anything. Anything. Give him enough time and he can predict anything, form a plan to counter it, and just absolutely dominate. Which is sort of what he does. Thanks to him, the school actually manages to sort of excel, because he knows exactly what the Dorsians are going to do, he knows exactly how to counter them. But then things get a bit weird. I mean, even though he's become their ally, you don't trust him, because he has a very self-serving kind of aura of himself. Nothing he does ever seems to be out of compassion for anyone else. Everything is just for his own goals. So he's sort of waiting for him to just betray them. Be like, oh no, I don't want to fight with you anymore, I'm back with the Dorsians. Oh, by the way, I sabotaged everything when you thought you were my friend. Bye. No, he doesn't quite do that. He remains their friend for some reason. And just dispenses advice and godlike ability to predict things, which is, in modern speak, quite lax. He has knowledge that a person cannot have, predictabilities that a person just cannot genuinely have. So he feels very unrealistic. It sort of takes you out of it when you realize just how stupidly good he is. He's essentially a god mode trump card. If something happens, throw Elef at it, because he'll just trump anyone, even an expert, because he's Elef. And he remains basically like that the entire show. be stone cold, super hacks, absolutely unbeatable douchebag. Anyway, Elf. So, like with everything else in the show, he has a few moments where he just does things out of nowhere for no good reason except for twists and drama. So in one episode he is acting suspiciously. I think he is, I can't remember, he's either setting up like some monitoring devices or some jamming devices to do something. Damn it, I can't remember. There's some, he's sneaking around school setting up some kind of devices, or like hacking devices or something. In any case, he's messing with technology, and this is not something that like aids the school in any way, nor does anyone else know about it. So he gets caught on camera, and then things just sort of get really weird. So he, what happens is he ends up taking an entire classroom full of people hostage, gets on the loudspeakers and just declares that, hey, I, Elf, want all of you to... No, wait, what's this? Oh yeah. From now on, this school has mandatory... oh, what's the word? Mandatory... Damn it, I can't find it. It might come to me later. Basically, everyone on the school are going to be going through mandatory soldier training and be soldiers for this region, for this area. I am going to oversee this, and you will become an army under my command. If you do not want this, to do this, I will, kill off people in this classroom. That's what I want. Elf out. And again, this comes out of nowhere. At this point, he's been sort of the asshole who helps out, sort of. And now, all of a sudden, he just decides, out of nowhere, that, hey, I'm gonna make all of you an army. And the way he goes about it is so stupid that it goes against everything we've been told about him. He's been depicted as this intelligent powerhouse, and suddenly he just goes completely stupid, doing something that everyone knows would not work. So tell me, I'm going to tell you exactly how he goes about it. So he goes into this classroom full of people and just basically walks up to a teacher, hands her a thick bunch of papers, a manifesto, basically telling her that, okay, so I have a plan. I'm going to turn this entire school into an army, and this is my plan in detail. Read it, and then you will clearly see where I'm coming from with this. Teacher basically looks at it, ignores it, like, nope, we're not going to have that. And Elf is genuinely shocked, like, what? But my plan, it's amazing. What? No. And you just have to ask yourself, why? He's supposed to be intelligent. How could he expect this thing to work? Did he expect them to just be like, oh yes, this is awesome, let's just quit cooking class and go be soldiers now? Again, it's just a twist thrown in there for no other reason than it's a twist. And what is even more stupid about this entire arc is that despite being fairly major, it doesn't have any impact once the arc is over. So what happens is he's discovered by my favorite character, by the way, by a hacker, an introverted hacker who sees him on some cameras. He finds a place, ties her up, ties her arms and legs, tape over her mouth, that stuff. Then he goes to the classroom, hands in the manifesto, it's rejected. He doesn't take it to that very well, and he ties up everyone in the entire classroom. Again, hands, feet, tape over mouth. Typical stuff. So, eventually they manage to save everyone. Everyone gets to know about Elf's stupid plan, and Elf just sort of gives up and is like, well, I will not do this, I will go along with you. And no one seems to hold it against him. You would think that all of these girls, they were only girls, that he tied up would be pissed at him for what he did, hate him, be angry at him, distrustful of him, just generally shun him for taking an entire classroom and a neat hostage and threatening to kill them. But no, outside of the Ark, no one holds it against him. He's still the advisor. I mean, the people he tied up are still like perfectly fine taking orders from him. It's just like as if nothing happened. As if there's no kind of conflict between them whatsoever. And that, it's just so annoying how these big twists come out of nowhere, leave just as quickly as they came, and leave no permanent effect on the plot. It just makes them feel so shallow. So, any other plot points to talk about? Just at least in case of things that just sort of come and go. Oh yeah, there's another thing later on that's arguably even worse, and it happens to Ruki Nosaki, the girl who got raped by Primal Haruto, and she was also taken hostage by Elo. So, during the arc that I mentioned earlier, where they infiltrate the Dorshin base, she gets captured. And that might have been like, ooh, exciting plot point. She's captured. What are they gonna do about this? And as usual with Valvrave, not much. So what happens is, she gets captured, and the next time we see her, she's been stuck into this, what can basically be described as a combination of a straitjacket and a hazmat suit. So it's this sort of skin-tight thing that keeps your arms and legs in place. Your head is covered completely. There's like no way to look out, and it's got this tube that's attached to a big piece of machinery. We never get to know what the machinery is, why it's there, why she's in that kind of suit. Nothing. We see it in a brief scene and never mentioned again. It does the typical Valvrave thing. It shows up, just is its thing, goes away. So anyway, she's shown to be in that thing, and you think that, oh, this is serious, and here's the frustrating thing. No one basically reacts to her capture. Things happen, she gets captured, she comes back, and no one mentions that, oh, Saki got captured. Maybe we shouldn't, leave the Dorshin, retreat from the Dorshin base right now because our friend is there. No, they retreat from the Dorshin base. They don't even mention that, oh no, we're leaving Saki behind. They leave, and the only mention we get from any of our friends who should care for her, especially Haruto, who's known her for a long time, and he raped her, feels incredibly guilty about it. You'd think that he would be the one who'd basically be yelling at everyone like, we need to go back and get my friend, with tears streaming down his cheeks. No, he doesn't. He barely reacts at all. It's just like, the only mention of her being captured, is him sort of listing it off among other sort of bad things that happened. Like, okay, this thing happened, that thing happened, Saki got captured, that thing's happened, and I need to go take a shit. That's basically what happens. A Valvrave pilot, because Saki's a Valvrave pilot, if I haven't mentioned it, I don't know. Valvrave pilot and a friend gets captured, and no one gives a fuck. And that just really took me aback. It's like, what? You are going to have a plot point where one of the characters gets kidnapped by what are essentially space Nazis, and no one's going to react. You're not going to have any interesting character developments, any changes in the personality, the dynamic, on account of having a friend being caught by the enemy. No, of course not. And it gets better with the exact same thing, same plot point. The plot point gets better. Later on, she is brought before like a camera, and the footage is being transmitted to people all over the human inhabited space. And she's stabbed to show that, ooh, she's an immortal Valvrave. She's a monster. So yeah, she's stabbed, she bleeds, she suffers a bit, she heals. And again, she seems quite stable for someone who's been stuck inside a sensory deprivation suit. And I'll come back to that later. So yeah, that happens, and things happen, and she sort of, I wouldn't say gets saved, she gets away and then just sort of goes back. And that's sort of one of the worst things about it. The conclusion is just so lame, so totally meh. So she comes back, and oh, let's see, how does she come back? I'm trying to recall now, it's been a while. Oh yeah, she managed to escape, and then she comes back flying a Valvrave again, fighting the enemy, and it's like nothing happened. She's the exact same person. She, same quips, same skills, same behavior. It's like, again, like nothing happened. She seems to bear no scars from having been imprisoned, no scars from having been in a sensory deprivation suit, no scars from having been tortured on live TV. Nothing. It just has no effect on anyone. If they're going to make these kind of big plot twists, and build up to them, hint on them, and if you can't do that, at least make them have some sort of effect on the characters involved. Make it matter. Because so many things in Valvrave just doesn't matter. They happen, but they don't do anything. They don't impact anything. Nothing. So yes, she returns, and everything is back to normal, sort of. So yeah, you'd think that Saki would be kind of jailed and changed by this point, by having to go through kidnapping, hostage situation, torture, capture, same Saki. Completely the same character. And how to begin with the final sort of part of the story. It's sort of a thing you see in a lot of anime. That's about, we got the humans and the human-like monsters like Tokugu, Ajin. It's when this footage of Saki being tortured and healed is broadcast all over humanity, the Valvrave pilots and everyone who affiliate with them are basically considered monsters or supporters of monsters. And that's sort of the big final thing, is they're completely abandoned by all of humanity. They have to go off and live on their own because everyone considers them monsters. And that is one of the most frustrating, to me at least, plot point happens. The one that had me almost screaming at the screen. And this could possibly be because, it's one of those things that resonate with me. But, so it turns out that up to this point, it's been a complete secret that Valvrave pilots are Valpires, immortals. No one knows it, pretty much. So, let me go into a bit of detail about another character who's important to the story. Haruto's best friend, Sashinami Shoko. And Shoko is sort of the, I think she's his childhood friend and crush. And we get to see that from the start of the show. Like, they're really good friends. He loves her, she loves him. They have to shout to tell each other, yada yada yada. Typical romance thing. And all through the show, they are good friends. They help each other, they save each other. Shoko does a lot of good things to help, the now independent school. They just have a really good relationship. And at no point in the story have any of the Valvrave pilots done anything to intentionally harm anyone. So, it is broadcast that the Valvrave pilots are immortal monsters, essentially. Shoko learns about this, and now for some reason, because drama, she hates Haruto, she doesn't trust him, she doesn't trust any other Valvrave pilots. It is basically, don't come near me, stay away from me, we are going to, you know, negotiate with Aris and Dosha to, you know, surrender to them because, you know, we don't want to be near you, we don't want to support you monsters anymore. And it's so aggravating because she, Shoko, is the one who should know better than anyone that Haruto is not a monster, and yet she treats him like he is. She is terrified of him, and so are all the other people. They are like, no, do not come close to us, we do not want you to come close to us, even though you saved our lives. I don't know how many times. These 5 pilots saved the lives of these people continually, like every other episode they save their asses, and now they're like, no, don't come close to us. It's so forced. It doesn't feel like a natural response. You'd imagine that some people at least would be like, no, I trust these people, they've saved my ass too many times to count. I'm going to trust the people who've saved us. No one does. Everyone just freaks out, shuns them, and eventually Haruto, through heroics and through some dramatic speeches, manages to sort of get through to Shoko. He kind of realizes that, okay, he might not be a monster. Does she change treatment? No, not really. She lets him into the vessel she's traveling in, but he has to be kept separately in an isolated room because she still doesn't trust him. Even though everything he's done, everything he's said, really should have just flipped a switch in her head, and then realize that, oh yeah, he is my friend, he's always been my friend, he will always be my friend. But no. She just treats him as a fucking monster. Bloody hell. That kind of thing has me... Those kind of plot points tend to resonate with me when there are humans who treat other, basically humans for all intents and purposes, as monsters, and, you know, fear them. But usually they don't. They resonate with me, they make me so frustrated, but they don't make me dislike the show. They usually pull it off in a way where they add to the show. This didn't add to the show. This subtracted from the show. It added drama, it added tension that wasn't needed. And it just broke several characters just for this. For the purpose of being drama. Yep. So that's basically the final big thing I'm going to touch on in regards to the plot. So I'm just going to sum up what I've said so far, and then move on to a couple other things, and then I'll round off, you know, with the things that I kind of like, because there are things about Valvrave that are good, and why they don't, in my opinion, make the show like a good show. They do make it at least somewhat enjoyable. Anyway, so from the beginning, Valvrave pilots become immortal vampires that can switch personalities with other people for no real reason. This isn't really used for anything except for needless drama, pardon me, and stupid plot points. Elf is a walking Deus Ex Machina who's just sort of used to solve any plot points that the writers themselves cannot solve. Just throw Elf at it and he will genius his way out of it. Except for when writers make him stupid and he ends up taking a classroom hostage for his own stupid plan, which is then not ever touched upon. And overall, there are a ton of plot lines that come out of nowhere, just abruptly end, do nothing for the show, and this includes Maria suddenly having amnesia, being a Valvrave pilot and then dying. These include Saki being kidnapped, held in horrible conditions, and then just sort of going back with nothing happens, and none of her friends even really react to her being gone. And then there's the Valvrave pilots being monsters, which just comes out of nowhere, adds more drama, but doesn't really matter in the long run. And it's just pulled off not very good at all. So, just a few minor points before I get to the good things. So, there's one particular scene that is kind of infamous for among people who have watched Kakumeiki Valrave, and that is the musical scene. This happens when, I think it's either right before or right after the school sort of segregates from the Dyson sphere and becomes its own independent thing, and they want to show the world that they are doing well, so they record a musical. And we get to see the musical in its entirety. And it's just super lighthearted, super bubbly, happy-go-lucky, and that's in and of itself not bad. It really isn't. If it was in a more fitting show, it wasn't a light-hearted, bubbly slice of life thing, it would be perfectly fine. But it isn't. It's in Valvrave, which tries to be really dark, really gritty, really horribly violent sometimes, actually. And suddenly there's this which just goes against everything, comes out of nowhere, doesn't fit in anywhere, and doesn't really serve a point. Yeah, it's the Valvrave thing again, something that shows up for no reason, serves no point, and just kind of leaves. It doesn't brought up later, it doesn't serve any point, it doesn't develop any characters, it doesn't have any relevancy to the plot whatsoever. It's just stupid. Let's check the note of scribbles to see if there's anything else I want to mention. Oh yeah, the overall ending is... Oops, sorry, it's mic. It's pretty bland. Not bad, yes, just bland. Haruto ends up sort of overexerting himself to save people. He dies, and then you get to see sort of a fast forward into the future, where they've the school's sort of built up their own little colony of humanity far off into space, far off from Arus and Dorsia, because humanity simply cannot accept them anymore because they have Valvrave pilots, which are monsters. And so you just get to see some of the characters having new professions. Some are teachers, some are governors, whatever. And there are some statues of the Valvrave pilots who died. There are 3 of them who died. All the dude Valvrave pilots die. And they are sort of shown as statues like, oh, we'll always remember them for their heroic sacrifice. And then the show kind of ends. It just kind of, it's a meh ending. Not outright bad, just meh. Anyway, let's end this on a couple good points, because there are a few honestly good points about this show. The music is generally pretty good. The openings and endings, I know pretty well. Pretty good. Well made, memorable, and in my case especially, I think it's a second opening, which is Okujanai, It Wasn't Me. Which is just such an earworm for me. It's stuck in my head for a long time after I watched the show. So yeah, music it's good. Definitely good. No, I have no issues with music. The visuals are great. The characters are pretty colourful, but not too colourful. And they're generally, they stand out in how they are designed. The Valvraves themselves look amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Great designs, unique designs. They don't quite look like any other mecha I've seen. Very sort of streamlined, very colourful. All of them have got these neon green thing parts of them that glow. They look great. Just whoever designed the Valvraves, kudos. You did a good job. And there is one character in the entire cast that I think they actually did an amazing job with. Mostly. She sort of peters out later on when they Yeah, I'll get to it. So that character is the NEET I mentioned earlier, who got sort of busted and kidnapped, no, not kidnapped, tied up by Elf, Remokoji Akira. So who she is she's this shut-in who lives in a cardboard box fortress in school, in sort of this abandoned corridor that no one goes to. And as I mentioned earlier, she's sort of the resident computer geek hacker. She's hacked into schools surveillance network. She controls all the cameras and a lot of other gear. She's sort of the silent eyes of the school. She sees a lot of things, but she doesn't really tell anyone because she's, you know, shut in. And the thing I like about her is that she's actually portrayed as a legit shut-in. Normally, you know, geek girls, neat girls tend to fall into the deadpan snarky type. They are kind of silent. Usually just make sort of silent. No, just make short, brief responses. But they're usually portrayed as still being sort of kind of cute in their geekiness, their shuttiness. Think I don't know her name. The little sister from No Game No Life. The sort of the unflappable geek. Not Remokoji Akira. She is actually. I'm not going to say she's complete accurate depiction of what a NEET is like, but she's more accurate than most because she is not. Her lifestyle is not portrayed as cute. It's not portrayed as sort of adorably geeky. It's actually a sort of a plot point that actually leads somewhere. That is many people, because the people that she interacts with, which is mostly Shoko and her brother Satomi, think it's a problem that she's shut in. They don't like it at all. And the way the show pictures it is, her cardboard box fortress is just stuffed full of things. There's pillows, blankets, old food, packs, there's dirty dishes, everywhere. It just looks like shit. And so does Akira actually. Her hair, it is a big mess. She's got bags under her eyes, she's pale, and she's just utterly incapable of talking to anyone face to face. If anyone, except for her brother, sort of tries to interact with her, she breaks down. She has anxiety attacks, she starts hyperventilating, she's just so broken she's incapable of conversing with people. And some might say, oh well, that's kind of sad, and yes, it is, but it's also refreshing to see a shut-in who actually acts like a shut-in. I mean, she never leaves her cardboard box fortress. Her brother gets her everything she needs. All the food, everything. And I assume she sort of got access to a toilet or something. She probably shouldn't think too much about that. But yeah, she spends all of her time in there, she cannot talk to people, and she just looks very unkempt, very messy, and she's a great depiction, I think, of a shut-in. Because of that, she is my favorite character in the show. And she ends up sort of breaking out of her cardboard box. Literally, she actually smashes through it to save Shoko and become a Valvrave pilot. And she's still very much a shut-in from that point onwards, but she gets better. And I'm gonna make another short point, which again, it's sort of how the show doesn't care about proper characterization. It's when Elf breaks into her cardboard fortress when she catches him doing the tech thing I mentioned earlier, and he ties her up, and she doesn't seem to suffer any consequences from this. You'd think that having someone break into what's essentially your safe space, manhandle you, tie you up and stuff like that, would leave her traumatized because she cannot handle people. But no. She goes back to being normal Akira. It's just a minor point, but still one of those things where I think they could have done something just to show that, hey, her privacy got completely violated and she's suffering for it. And let me have a look at the note, if there's any other things I have to mention. No, not really. Oh yeah, there's one thing I should have probably mentioned earlier. But I'll end off with that one. It's a demonstration of how bad the show is at characterizing certain characters. And we go back to Rukinosaki again, the girl who got, you know, tied up and kidnapped and just generally suffering a deal, and who never was shown to have been affected by it. It's she doesn't really have a character per se. She's a celebrity. We get to see that early on, that she's in a lot of ads and music videos and stuff like that. She's known, she's famous. And that's basically her entire character in a nutshell. She doesn't do much, she does what the plot demands of her, and there's not much character interaction, and her only reason for becoming a Valvrave pilot was, oh, well, I'm kind of tired of being famous, of people, you know, pestering me because I'm famous, but I want to be more famous. Stay with me. That's basically the reason. I'm famous, but I want to be more famous, so I'm going to get into Valvrave because that will make me famous. And that's the most character development she ever gets. From that point onwards, she's just sort of the capable female pilot, and yeah. So to sum this rant up succinctly, because it was, I know it was a directionless rant, but that's the entire point. It's me rambling, and I hope it wasn't too painful to listen to. So yeah, so it's a show that just, it has a good premise, really has a good premise. The premise of two warring nations and a small neutral nation sort of getting involved in their battles is interesting. It makes for a nice backdrop. But then the show just sort of goes in every kind of direction, and it's impossible to know if they intentionally made it stupid or if they tried to make it good and just failed miserably. There are plot points that come out of nowhere. Yes, do things seemingly for the sake of drama, then just cut off. They're never mentioned again, they don't impact the story. This happens several times, and at several different magnitudes, with minor things, major things, all kinds of developments. Valvrave just loves to throw things out just for the sake of drama. Twists just for the sake of twists, M. Night Shyamalan style. You have characters who are forced to act out of character just so the plot can squeeze out some more additional drama. You've got characters that don't have a character and who are just there to fulfill some sort of archetype. You've got... that's basically Valvrave in a nutshell. If you don't mind the craziness, if you go into it knowing that the show will just throw everything at your face and hoping something sticks, or that it's edgy enough to keep the show floating, then you might enjoy it. But don't go into Valvrave expecting it to be a serious grim show, because it is nowhere near that. It is not a serious show. It shouldn't be treated as a serious show. It should be treated as a really possibly enjoyable, crazy ride of edgy, forced drama. And it's sad that I have to say that, because it could have been so much better. The Valvraves look amazing, the visuals look great, I like the character design. I wish they had made this into a legit show, like a proper show with a proper, well thought out, well written story, good characters, all of that. I wish so bad it could have, but they didn't. Shame on you, Sunrise, shame on you. Anyway, that's where I'll end off my rant. I hope it was enjoyable to someone, to some extent. I might make more of these. I kind of like saving these kinds of ideas and thoughts up, and then just spewing it out. Normally just to someone, like a friend, but I figured this time I'm just gonna spew it out on mic, throw it up on the internet for people to listen to if they're at all interested. Next time, I mean, there's probably going to be a next time. I've got stuff to say about so many shows. I might get into one that's very, very divisive. Some people love it, some people hate it. I am on the side that loves it, even though I recognize that it has flaws, some of which really bother me, and that show would be Cross-Edge. So anyway, I'll be back, probably back later at some point. I don't have some sort of set release schedule for these things. I upload them when I feel like it, when I feel in the mood to spout a lot of words. So hopefully it won't be too far off, and I hope it'll be an enjoyable rant for you and for me. So thank you for listening all the way. Hope I give you something of substance and not just random incoherent thoughts in a random incoherent mess. But yeah, thanks for listening. See you and have a nice day. D3 out.